Ankara, Turkey, July 7th, 2020 ceases. The world's most powerful military alliance gathered under one roof, and once again, the room got quiet when Greenland came up. Donald Trump arrived at the NATO Summit greeted personally by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The two men shaking hands, walking together down a blue carpet, and honor guards standing at attention. On the surface, it looked like diplomacy as usual, but underneath, an old wound was reopening. One that traces back years to Trump's first term, when he first floated the idea that the United States should simply buy Greenland from Denmark. Back then, it sounded like a headline nobody could quite believe. Denmark called it absurd. Greenland's own government said it wasn't for sale, but the idea never fully died. And now, standing in Ankara, Trump brought it back into the room, framing it not as a real estate deal, but as a matter of strategy. His argument: Greenland doesn't help Denmark. It sits in the Arctic, rich in rare earth minerals, sitting on shipping lanes that matter more every year as ice melts. And global powers compete for control of the North. To Trump, that makes it too important to be left where it is. But here's the problem for NATO. This isn't just a comment about a cold island far from Washington. It's a comment that cuts at the foundation of the alliance itself. NATO exists on one core promise, Article 5. The idea that an attack on one member is an attack on all, and that no member state moves against another's territory. Denmark is a NATO founding member. Greenland is Danish territory. When the President of the United States talks about controlling it rather than protecting it, allies don't hear ambition. They hear a threat to the very rule that holds the alliance together. And this didn't happen in isolation. The Atlantic Council, watching the summit closely, pointed out that these renewed Greenland comments are stacking on top of other moments where Trump has questioned NATO's value outright, even suggesting the United States could reconsider its membership altogether. Add that to reports that European nations are being singled out: Italy, Germany, France, for not fully backing recent American military action in the Middle East. And you start to see the shape of the unease spreading through Ankara this week. It's not one disagreement, it's a pattern, and NATO's own leadership knows it. So why does Turkey matter in the middle of all this? Because Erdogan has become the one leader Trump keeps praising, calling their relationship chemistry that works. In the middle of the Greenland tension, Trump used the same visit to promise Turkey something real: sanctions relief and a possible return to the F-35 fighter jet program, years after Turkey was removed from it. It's a reminder that even as Trump challenges old allies over old land disputes, he's building new alignments in the same breath. For Denmark, the message lands differently. This is a country that has spent decades as a quiet, reliable NATO partner, rarely making headlines, rarely causing friction. Now it finds itself being talked about in terms of territory and control by the leader of the alliance's most powerful member. Danish officials have said plainly, more than once, that Greenland is not for sale and never will be. But the fact that the conversation keeps returning year after year, summit after summit, tells its own story about how fragile even the oldest friendships can feel under pressure. That's the heart of what's playing out in Ankara. Not a single outburst, not one throwaway line, but the reopening of a years-old fault line. At the exact moment, NATO is trying to prove to the world that it still stands united. Whether this settles quietly, the way it has before, or becomes something allies can no longer treat as just talk, is now the question sitting over the rest of this summit. Not a single outburst, not one throwaway line, but the reopening of a years-old fault line at the exact moment. NATO is trying to prove to the world that it still stands united. Whether this settles quietly, the way it has before, or becomes something allies can no longer treat as just talk, is now the question sitting over the rest of this summit. But zoom out further, and the Greenland moment isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening inside a summit that itself has raised questions before a single word was spoken. This year's NATO gathering isn't in Brussels, it's in Ankara, hosted personally by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan at his own presidential compound. And in the days leading up to it, Turkish authorities detained more than a dozen people in security sweeps, including journalists, and denied accreditation to opposition press. Foreign policy analysts have pointed out the contrast plainly. A summit meant to showcase alliance unity is being staged in a country tightening its grip on dissent at home, with limited public pushback from Washington. That matters here because of how closely Trump and Erdogan have aligned this year. Trump has already used his authority once before to lift sanctions in the region on Syria, after praising its new leader as a great, young, attractive guy following the fall of Bashar al-Assad. Now in Ankara, he's signaling the same move for Turkey, promising sanctions relief and dangling renewed access to the F-35 fighter jet program, years after Turkey was removed from it for buying a Russian S-400 missile system. Erdogan didn't just hear the promise, he said it out loud to reporters himself, saying Trump had personally given his word. Meanwhile, the broader alliance is trying to hold two competing stories together at once. On paper, NATO members agreed last year in The Hague to raise defense spending to 5% of GDP, split between military spending and security infrastructure. That's the story. NATO Secretary General once told this week, alliance investing more, building more, delivering more. But Trump has already called Germany's defense spending ridiculous days before the summit even started. And Chancellor Friedrich Merz felt compelled to publicly defend his country's budget as the greatest defense effort Germany has made. That's not the tone of an alliance quietly agreeing on numbers. That's two allies negotiating in public to the press days before they sit at the same table. And Greenland isn't the only relationship strained heading into this room. Just last month, Trump and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni feuded publicly after the G7 summit. When Trump suggested she'd begged him for a photo, Meloni pushed back hard, saying she never begs for anything. Days before Ankara, Trump posted a photo of the two of them with the caption, restraining order needed. A jab dressed as a joke, but one more sign of how personal these disputes have become between leaders who are supposed to be standing shoulder to shoulder this week. So when Trump brings Greenland back into the conversation in Ankara, it lands on top of all of this. A security crackdown backdrop, a spending disagreement playing out through press statements, and a public spat with one of Europe's own leaders. Denmark's position hasn't changed. Greenland is not for sale, and Danish officials have said so plainly more than once. But the question NATO now has to answer isn't really about one Arctic island. It's whether an alliance built on the promise that no member state moves against another can keep saying that promise still means something, while its most powerful member keeps testing exactly how far he can push it.